All right, welcome back to our most likely final podcast in the starter series on the art of healing. My name is Logan Quinn, and as always, I am your teacher and mentor today. Last day, we talked about building beliefs, all the things that our subconscious mind does in this sneaky way to attract healing, and how the things that we are most attracted to in studying or discovering or the experiences we keep coming back to are actually just a reflection of our subconscious mind trying to generate a healing process for us. So, just to summarize last day before heading into today's podcast, we often find ourselves driven and buying into certain fields of study in very deep ways for a certain amount of time because our subconscious mind believes and acknowledges in some way that this area of study or this belief system or this sport will allow me to behave in ways that will heal me internally. And it will be able to rationally explain why I'm going to feel certain feelings. So you may not understand on a conscious level that you need to feel certain things, but your subconscious mind, your greater intelligence, is acknowledging and trying to find places for you to behave and act in certain ways and open up certain feelings. So we find activities and beliefs and fields of study that will rationally explain what feelings need to come up and why, so that when they do come up, we're not surprised and we don't feel that we are going crazy and start shaming those feelings back into repression. Now today, in Building Beliefs 2, I want to talk about the motivation for beliefs and how confirmation bias and our emotional needs fit into what we find ourselves attracted to. So here's an example of how beliefs are actually just unmet needs. Now today's podcast I wrote out yesterday rather than going off the cuff, so if you notice a difference in my delivery today, that's mostly because I'm reading a lot of this off of a page because I was so inspired yesterday to write this down. So go with me here. Here's an example of how beliefs are unmet needs and how not doing the work to know your psychological motivators for wanting to believe means you could be feeding yourself your own delusions. Take me, for example. So in my life, I've had visions of other lifetimes. I've had visions as if I was seeing through the eyes of like an animal. And this has happened at least 4 times from what I can consciously remember. It happened when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and again just in the last couple of months. Now, it may have happened multiple times when I was a kid, but nonetheless, I'm sure some of you guys have also had weird experiences like this. Now, I'm going to give you 4 different interpretations of the exact same event. So when I was a kid, I was just playing around as animals, and I was seeing these visions, I was seeing the world, but with like an overlay in front of my eyes, as if I was the animal itself in the forest, running around on all fours, wanting to bite something, wanting to tear something down from a tree, or I was a monkey swinging through the vines. I'm sure all of you guys will remember these feelings when you were a kid. And I didn't think anything of it as a kid. You know, if I saw the world as if I was a hunter-gatherer or I was King Arthur, it was just me playing. Now, I got these visions again when I was a teenager, and I was getting heavily into meditation techniques. So as a teen, I was getting in touch with the collective unconscious, and the reason why I explained it this way, rather than when I was a kid, I said I was just playing. As a teenager, I, at the time, was in the middle of studying the basics to psychology and psychotherapy, as well as some meditation techniques, and a huge amount of the basics understandings of psychology is this concept of the collective unconscious. So naturally, that's how I explained and rationalized that experience as a teenager. I was saying, okay, now I see. These experiences are actually just me tapping into the experiences that are ingrained in my genetic code from hundreds of thousands of years of evolution that is accessible in my mind to, get in touch with parts of me that are like a tiger, or that are like my ancestors, or like this particular person or that particular person. It is the culmination of memes that are passed down in our conscious and unconscious mind that we can tap into as people. That's what I rationalized these visions as when I was a teen. Now, a few years ago, I was in therapy. I was studying psychotherapy under Dr. Bennett Shapiro, a great psychotherapist. And I had the same thing happen again. I had the same types of visions. But in therapy, I was told, and I was, rationalizing it as saying I was tapping into my desires of being that animal or person, and what those animals or people represented to me. The animal that I was feeling and getting the visions of, or the person that I was behaving as in therapy when I would have a vision or an emotional breakthrough, represented an archetype. They were the archetypes that actively live inside me and represent a part of me that, when thought of, feels like a tiger or a cheeky monkey. That character or feeling of the animals, persons, or memory represents a feeling in me I want to get to know better. So when I am doing a psychological exercise that, brings about new feelings, and I get these visions that, oh, I'm a tiger and I'm going to tear your throat apart because I'm so angry at you, that's just my own mind associating an archetype to the feeling. What does this feeling feel like? And what is most similar to that I know of in the world? Well, if I want to bite something, I get the vision of a tiger, and I embody that energy. Elite athletes do the same thing to get into the zone for their particular sport. A rugby player might channel a silverback gorilla energy. They're using that idea archetype as a way to rationally explain the type of energy and emotions that they need to engage in to successfully play their sport. Now, the same thing happens in therapy. There are archetypes of emotions that we understand in our mind, so when we tap into them, we say, this is like, and you start feeling and looking like a tiger or an ape or, an antelope or a bunny. So the same thing can be said from this lens on visions and talking to archetypes, that religions do the same thing. There are ideals that we try and strive for, just like the elite athlete tries to strive to be like a silverback gorilla when he's playing rugby. Our emotional and moral archetype in Christianity would be to strive to be like Jesus Christ. And you can feel more like Jesus Christ when you behave in certain ways and tap into certain emotions, and then you say, oh man, I'm really on the right path because I feel more Christ-like. A lot of people who have spiritual awakenings in particular religions, a lot of times, if they don't have the right understanding, often say, I am Jesus Christ reborn. Because they feel so in tune with that archetypal energy inside themselves that they mistake that they think they themselves are that person. But rather it is just an ingrained archetype in our collective unconscious that we understand. So when we tap into those emotions, we can say that we are like Christ, or that we are like an ape, or etc., etc. So I've gone through 3 examples of the same types of visions throughout 3 phases of my life. And now we come to the final one. As an adult, and this happened about a month ago, I feel and I am seeing these experiences as if I am a seer. I have clairvoyance is what my current studies are telling me I interpret these visions as. I have clairvoyance, and I'm actually tapping into previous lives I have lived. This is what I believe right now. And the memories are stored in my conscious field in DNA and in the collective unconscious. This understanding that I have now that I'm diving into, this is what I'm being told in my studies, and this is what I feel is more true, potentially. And you'll notice, this is the important part, each interpretation reflects where I am at that time. They are all the same experiences, without fail, they're exactly the same basically, but depending on where I was in my studies and where my subconscious was driving me towards, the belief system and field of study represented what types of feelings I wanted to engage in. So in high school, I was researching meditation and dynamic meditation and the basics to psychology. So my understanding of my events reflect what I was told and what I was reading. In therapy, I was learning about how our feelings point to inner emotional truths about what and who we want to be. So like an example would be, when angry, I want to tear your head off like a tiger. I get visions of being a tiger. But really, I'm just getting in touch with my motivations that remind me of an archetype, whether it be the tiger or the hunter or etc., or being like Christ. So these are what is known as confirmation bias. If we can't see that what we are currently studying is going to be the lens that we interpret the data through, we actually buy into, this is actually the only real explanation for this, right? It's like, if I am studying these things and then I have a vision, then I go back to how that model explains what that vision is, and I say that is confirmation that this model is true, this explanation is true. And if I can repeat the experience over and over again, then I confirm that the interpretations are true, that this explanation is actually real. Now, each experience that I had was the same, so why are there different interpretations? The answer, like I said, is confirmation bias. Because that's what I'm studying at the time, that's what lens I interpret the world through. So when I have an experience, it confirms my research. And if I can do it over and over again, that's proof, isn't it, right? It's proof that that was right. Wrong. The reason why religions and fields of studies that don't use the scientific method are not reliable is that if you truly want to know if what you're experiencing is correct, like what I'm talking about, if these experiences, these visions are correct, you cannot just use the lens of your belief system to analyze whether that confirms the experience as being real. To truly investigate it is to try and use other explanations to disprove your experience and your interpretation of it. That's how the scientific method works, is that a theory and a hypothesis is only proven true when all other explanations are actually less likely or less complete explanations of that experience, and you constantly test the data to try and disprove your theory or hypothesis. So the second answer to this question, the first one being confirmation bias, the second answer is emotional need. Each belief, each field of study, allowed me to contextualize and experience different shades of the same experience. So at each stage, I was taking on beliefs and concepts that would explain and justify the feelings I was subconsciously looking to have. Studying the basics of psychology allowed me to have access and rationalize certain flavors of behaviors that I previously couldn't tap into. And then going through the same process again with a different belief system and studying new things, I could go deeper and have the same experience but tap into deeper emotions. And each time, if I didn't know better, I would say, oh man, yeah, that old version, that old explanation is bullshit. This one is so much deeper. This is the real truth. So my point is, our mind uses confirmation bias even when our beliefs may or may not be rational, so that our subconscious drives us into behaviors that will heal us. It's like I said in part 1 of Building Beliefs, the trick is to go through this process knowing our brain does this so that we don't buy into our own lies. The need to heal mentally and feel whole is very strong. Hence, people will believe just about anything if it provides some fraction of the feelings they need to heal with. So, coming back to me, I may be wrong about the whole multi-lifetime thing that I'm currently studying right now through shamanic studies. I may be wrong that I am clairvoyant. But I acknowledge I'm being pulled to study this stuff. So there is an actual truth to what I'm studying. Whether it's objectively true or not is actually not the point. The point is that my subconscious knows I need to heal something, and a part of me believes that I'll become who I want or need to be by following this path or these studies. Not because it's objectively true, not because it may actually be true. It may be. But because this path will probably let me acknowledge suppressed feelings that this field of study welcomes, I actually feel comfortable bringing up these feelings. So I actually need to be irrational right now to allow the healing process to occur, because some of these feelings probably weren't welcome in therapy or didn't have a good enough explanation for me to engage in them. You know, when you're too rational, sometimes that limits the feelings you can have, right? That's why so many people love spirituality and love the woo-woo bullshit, crystals work, let's astral project all over the place and not bother explaining it rationally, because the more important thing is that we have the feelings. It's not the explanation that matters, it's that the feeling that we get from it allows us to feel more whole, more alive, and more passionate about things, and feel special. And we need to be very careful about that. So, what I'm studying right now makes me feel subconsciously safe to let that part of me bubble up and be exposed. So, beliefs, really, the things that we believe at a certain phase in our life, are just vehicles for our behaviors. Now, I'm going to repeat that. Beliefs are just vehicles for behaviors that will heal us. So how do I know this idea about the healing process is correct? Well, luckily psychotherapy gave me that piece of the objective puzzle. Like I said, beliefs are unmet needs, and beliefs are the vehicles for behaviors that will help us heal. I know this because I have experienced this dozens of times in therapy. Here's an example that you'll be able to see very clearly exactly how this works. I believed that women wanted a strong, muscular guy who was perfectly athletic. This was in high school. But this belief was destroying me completely. I was obsessing over it and killing myself to achieve it. I was following all the rules required to be the right kind of man: diet, gym, attitude, sleep, diet, gym, attitude, sleep, every day without fail, not deviating from the absolute perfect behavior. My diet was perfect, my sleep was perfect, my attitude was perfect, my gym time was perfect. But doing this, I had nothing left to give to women. I was drained. So in therapy, I worked out my aggression towards myself. I was so aggressive to myself, saying, I'm going to be this person so that I can get what I want and have the experiences with women that I want. And the feeling that was underlying this aggressive, obsessive drive, and the feeling that was underlying this belief that this is what women wanted, was, I hate you. You're not good enough. This is me speaking to myself. I would say, I hate you. You're not good enough. You have to work harder. Don't stop. She'll never love you. And as I would go through this, Ben, my mentor, in psychotherapy, knowing me really well at that point, says, sounds like mom. And that's the trick, is you have somebody interpret the things knowing your character structure, and you go, oh, crap. These are leftover protective mechanisms from my childhood. I fell into this belief system because I wanted to please my mom. So that you then retarget the exercises rather than me yelling at myself in current day saying that I'm not good enough, that I'm never going to get love if I don't become this and I have to kill myself to get it. I retarget the exercise. I change the psychodrama and I picture little me struggling to be the right boy so that my mom could love me. And boom, as soon as I do that and I start yelling at little me, saying these things, all the feelings come back. The panic of abandonment, fear of inadequacy, and memories of when I felt this way as a kid. I could see it. I would get visions. I would get these memories flood back to me. I could see how I got there and why I fell into believing this fitness thing so aggressively. The belief was driving me to re-experience this so that I could heal it and not repress the pain anymore. So we do the same things with any belief system, any thing that we are really interested in is actually just a vehicle for our beliefs and for our healing process. Beliefs are the vehicle for our healing as well. When we haven't had our first few experiences of seeing behind the veil of our healing and healing our false beliefs, we blindly stumble through life trying to heal, but hurting others along the way. And we actually feed ourselves our own delusions, thinking that the things that we believe are actually objectively true, as opposed to actually just being vehicles for us to access feelings that we couldn't access before. It's like trying to build a dock without ever having used hammer and nail before. Like, you're gonna get a few hammers to your thumb. If you've never done this before, you're an untrained dock builder. And we need mentors in therapy to help guide us through and eventually show us to be brave through your emotional storms without having to build a dock. So a therapist will help us in the beginning build these docks and build these beliefs, whether rational or not, and say it's fine, we'll just let the healing happen this way for now. And slowly they'll make you more and more aware of how these beliefs are actually just repressed emotions. And eventually in the therapy process, a good mentor will help you get to the point where you don't have to build beliefs to handle emotional storms. You can just be a surfer. You ride the waves. And like me, if you find yourself building a dock, which I'm doing right now, and potentially believing crazy things, you don't give them too much weight. You say, okay, I see this happening, I'm going to let it happen, but I'm going to be conscious it's probably just for my healing. So with my studies of shamanism and clairvoyance and studying the ideas of multiple lifetimes, I can see that. I'm building these beliefs right now that I didn't have previously. And I'm not going to give it too much weight. I'll let it happen. I'll let myself take these beliefs on for now, and I'll say, okay, I'm going to let it happen, be conscious that it's probably just for my healing. And if it's also objectively true, I'll only know when my feelings are healed and not personally identified with the beliefs. So right now, if I get these new feelings come up, they're confirmation bias that this belief system is correct. That, let's say, I get a clairvoyant experience or I get a vision of a previous lifetime. Well, because I'm studying these things, saying that people can get visions of previous lifetimes, that's confirmation bias that this belief system is correct. when actually what's underlying this belief could probably be just that I need to engage in these feelings of specialness and connection to the universe and connection to my ancestors and to myself. And that's what really matters. Only then can I separate my feelings from whether this is objectively true and really do the studies of whether or not metaphysics can be measured and found to be true. But as long as my feelings are tied to my beliefs, I'm blind. So I need to acknowledge that right now and say, I could be wrong about what I'm studying, but it doesn't matter. What matters more is that I am engaging in feelings that I need to heal myself. So finally we see riding the waves of our emotions without beliefs is like play. And so we're coming back to the very first example that I had. When I had these visions as a kid, if we as adults can allow ourselves to engage in these feelings and not buy into the beliefs, like if I was a kid and actually believed I was a tiger, I'd be put into a mental institute. But a kid doesn't think that. A kid just says, I'm playing, my feelings are the feelings I want to engage in. That's why I engage in play. It's fun for the sake of being fun. It's engaging in feelings and experiences for the sake of engaging in feeling and experiences. No belief is required. And that's the truth behind my first experience of visions. It was just play. Emotions for the sake of them. Being a tiger or a hunter in the forest because that's what I wanted to feel in that moment. As adults, we go on these wild goose chases trying to justify why we believe certain things. We go on these wild goose chases trying to justify and explain that our beliefs are the real beliefs. And as long as you need something to be true, like i.e., your beliefs have to be objectively true no matter how irrational, you know your subconscious is in control. That you're not in control of what you believe. Your subconscious mind is so desperately trying to heal you that you actually forget about rational explanations for things. So to the degree we are identified with our beliefs, we are trapped from stepping back and being objective and smart about reality. So really, as long as we are trying to justify why we want to act and feel certain ways, we're going to take on beliefs about what we're studying and lose ourselves in it. We're going to say, yeah, crystals are the only thing that can heal you, or like burning sage is the only thing that will really get you there. Or, I'm tapping into connecting to my ancestors. Hey, maybe you are. But also maybe you're not. So just be aware. Allow yourself to have that experience, because what matters is that you get that feeling, because it makes you feel good. But to really be an adult is to acknowledge the truth of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's that you get these feelings in order to heal, and only once you are balanced and healed can you step back, look at the research and data objectively and say, okay, maybe that was just because I needed to heal my emotions, and saying I was talking to my ancestors, or I was talking to this god, or Osiris, or Allah, allowed me to feel certain things. Fine. Then that's okay. And I allowed myself to go there, and it made me a better person for it. But now it's time to put that aside and take a look at the science or the proper reasoning behind that mechanism. And with time, we may find that metaphysics is true, that the supernatural can be measured and found. But if your feelings are personally identified with the belief, you're not objective, and you're not actually going to be a proper researcher. And that's why I'm very wary of people who say this is the only way to find truth, in whatever it is that they're studying. It's only astrophysics, or it's only math, or it's only biology, or it's only this religion, or my religion, or, then you still haven't understood. and you're still personally identified with that belief, so that you can maintain a position, so you can maintain your feelings about yourself. It keeps you safe. It keeps you in these feelings that you want to engage in. So, to you guys, I say, after this whole series, enough is enough. It's time for us to wake up, let ourselves be like kids, because our inner child deserves it, and we should be conscious parents to ourselves. No more believing blindly. Let's see through the sneaky nature of our minds so we can have a truer connection to our emotions and to other people, and try and not build docks so elaborately, and strive to be more like the surfer on the ocean. And be brave enough to say, these emotions make me feel good. I'm going to go to, this mosque today and pray to this God, or engage with these people in this culture, because this culture makes me feel good. I'm going to go to an African dance circle because engaging in those feelings with these people makes me feel what I want to feel. I'm going to talk to my ancestors today because it makes me feel whole. I'm going to go play this sport. I'm going to go do these things. And at the same time, I'm looking after my inner child because it just wants to play. So, the goal as adults is to reunite your inner adult and your inner child. Just like Christianity does with us being his children and connecting to the ideal father figure. Just like many other religions and myths did the same thing and told the same stories. To grow up is to protect your inner child out in the world so that it can play safely. It can ride the waves. But the adult is the one that is skillful enough to navigate the waters on your surfboard and not get toppled over. So be objective about your beliefs, but also allow yourself to be irrational, rationally. You know that you are being irrational, and it's fun. And that, my friends, I think is the proper end to this 6-part series on the art of healing. I hope you enjoyed the introduction to the basics of levels of consciousness, psychotherapy, and how we build beliefs to engage in the healing process. Now, until next time, my friends, you know it. Stay healthy, stay healing.